type to add a dependency for most of the common libraries we might need. So I do a Google search, I start with the word Android in case CardView exists on a different platform, which it very well may do. So Android, then the name of the thing that I want, so we need CardView, okay? And then the word dependency. And more often than not, that search will bring us up what we need. So enter. And the top one looks good, developer.android.com. Always good to get things from the official website. So click there. And again, back to our really intimidating developer documentation, ignore all the things that look confusing. But quite soon we see an example of the dependency block that we've just seen, and that's the line that we need. So we can add this line, implementation, and the name of the library, android.cardview, okay? And this will give us what we need in our project. Now be very, very careful because this says androidx.cardview. AndroidX is the modern, fairly new way and new libraries in Android. You might have a different version, an Android support library or something else. If you don't see androidx.cardview, then just be sure to copy this line, to pause the video and copy this line letter for letter, or you could go at the top to this URL here, okay? AndroidX is the key thing. If you use the older version of the library, you might run into problems, okay? So we'll copy the line that says implementation. We don't need to copy the dependencies block, we already have that, so copy. And back to Android Studio. And then anywhere inside this block, we just copy and paste that line. And when you do this, and if you scroll up, you'll see a bar at the top has appeared saying Gradle files have changed since the last project sync. A project sync may be necessary for the IDE to work properly. IDE is your development environment. It's what Android Studio is. Okay, so whenever you touch these build.gradle files, you must immediately press a button so that will publish to your other files. If you don't, you won't be able to use your new changes. You can do it two ways. You can click sync now on the bar. That's absolutely fine. Or there is a weird looking button in the toolbar. Looks a bit like an elephant with its trunk in the air and a little blue arrow. If you hover over it, it will say sync project with Gradle files. Okay, so either or. I'm going to choose the little elephant for now. So let's click that. Okay, and that is now synced. So we go back to our layout. So you can click sync now. IDE is your development environment. It's what Android Studio is. Okay, so whenever you touch these build.gradle files, you must immediately press a button so that will publish to your other files. If you don't, you won't be able to use your new changes. You can do it two ways. You can click sync now on the bar. That's absolutely fine. Or there is a weird looking button in the toolbar. Looks a bit like an elephant with its trunk in the air and a little blue arrow. If you hover over it, it will say sync project with Gradle files. Okay, so either or. I'm going to choose the little elephant for now. So let's click that. Okay, and that is now synced. So we go back to our layout file now. And this time, if you start typing CardView, left bracket C-A-R-D, capital V, we have autocomplete. So we've gone into our build files, we've added a new dependency, and what Android Studio has done is they've gone, found that library, that collection of files online, and they've brought it into our project and into our app. So now we can start using them, and we're ready for the next tutorial. Okay, so I've closed down the build.gradle file from the previous tutorial, and I've removed that first bit of code we put in for the card view. So I'll just type that again. So under the text view restaurant name, a couple of lines, and now I start typing card view, and because we've got that as a dependency now, and we've synced it with our Gradle file, we can now use this in our project. So autocomplete, we're going to do wrap content. So we're going to put in this card, in this floating box that you're going to see shortly, we're going to put some stuff, and we're actually going to define the height of those things separately. So rather than specifying the height of the card view, we'll just say be as high as you need to be for the things inside it. So do wrap content, and you'll see shortly how we will be setting some height in this card view's contents, in the card view's children. Okay. Also, we need to give it an ID, because in a moment we're going to be moving text view starters inside this card view. And that means that'll be a problem for the main courses, because it won't know how to go underneath text view starters, as you'll see shortly. So let's give this card view an ID, and we'll do lowercase card underscore view starters, card view starters. Okay, very good. And now I'll just do a normal right arrow, so we get automatically the closing tag given to us, make a few line breaks, and that's looking really good. So this is a container. We can put things inside this. Now you might think, okay, well, can we put the text view and the image view in it directly? And yes, we can. But a card view is a very simple type of container. It's actually very similar to another type of container we've not met yet called a frame layout. And frame layouts are really basic. They don't give us much control for laying out its children. So rather than putting the image view and text view in here directly to give us more control, we're going to put another view group, another container. And just for a recap, we'll go and use our linear layout that we did before in the last section. So let's do linear layout. And now we're going to do match parent, because the parent of this linear layout is the card view. So by doing match parent, it will make it 200 dp, just like the card view. That's what we want. And height, we will also do wrap content, because this linear layout is going to have some children. It's going to have the image view and the text view, and we'll be specifying the height for that. Okay? We don't need to give it an ID, because it's not necessary for our relative layout. So let's just do a normal right arrow to get the closing tag, do a few line breaks, and now we're ready to put some things inside this. Wait a moment, I've forgotten something. Do you know what I've forgotten? The linear layout orientation. Okay, very good. So we will now cut and paste this text view starters and put it in the linear layout. So Control X, Command X, and inside these two tags, paste. Okay, so now we've got an error. So text view mains has an attribute of layout below text view starters. And hang on a second, text view starters, it is still in the layout file, but when we hover over the error and read it, text view starters is not a sibling in the same relative layout. So what that means is our parent group, the relative layout, Well, that's only got 1, 2, 3 direct children. The restaurant name, now our card view, and the text view mains. So text view starters isn't a sibling. In fact, it's a child of a sibling. Okay, so this kind of layout tree with parents, children, and siblings, at first might seem really confusing. But as we start to put elements inside elements inside elements, you'll start to see that actually it's not so confusing, because when we go to relative layout, this whole tag, text view, is a child, and this whole card view here is a child, and that text view is a child, and anything else inside this card view is not a direct child. And hopefully with a bit of practice that won't be too hard to see. So we can fix this error by making layout below not the text view starters. Card is sort of floating in the wrong place. Use now inside a living. Control X, move the line break, and I'm going to do my very useful Control Alt L, Command Option L. And that tidies things up. It puts our IDs to the top and clumps our attributes together. So that's looking pretty good. So now let's add the image view to this card view, and make sure you add it above the text view inside the linear layout. Width, we will say match parent. We'll make it as wide as the card, 200 dp, but we will fix the height to 150 dp. Okay, and enter. And self-closing tag. Okay, so we have an image view at the top of our card view and the text view directly underneath. Now I've gone and fetched a couple of photos, a photo of some starters and a photo of a main to use for this tutorial. And I've put it in the resources for this tutorial, so you are free to download those resources in this tutorial and use the same images. Or if you want, you can go and find some other photos if you would like. Okay, it's entirely up to you. But what I will do is I will show you one more time how to import those photos. So on the left, change the project pane for the resource manager. And this time, let's do it the manual way. Let's not drag and drop them. Let's do the plus icon there. And import drawables. So click that. And I've put it on the desktop, so I always find the Android file manager a real pain to use. If you do as well, then you're not alone. So where are we? C drive, users. Okay, it's on my desktop, so Udemy Tutor desktop. Good. And main and starter. And if you press Control or Shift, or Option or Shift on the Mac, you can select both of them and press OK. And that speeds things up, so do OK. And you can see we've got both our files there. You can leave the name as what I call the main and starter, but remember, to make sure we don't get a horrible crash with a super high resolution picture, we need to add a qualifier for density on both of them and put it to the very top, extra high density. Just to recap from the last tutorials, if you import a picture that's particularly high resolution, it will put it in the standard drawable folder for low resolution phones, and it will upscale it. It will make it even more dense and even bigger for high resolution phones. And sometimes that can cause the app to crash because it runs out of memory because the picture's just too big. If we put it in this extra high density folder, then we can ensure we won't get such a crash, okay? So qualify density, value, extra high density for both files, leave the names, and then go next, and import. Good, so we now have this ready to use. So back to our image view, I'm gonna just go back to the project pane for more space. Okay, now I can do source, and drawable, and it's the starter for this one. Okay. Now, if you look, you can see that the size of the image that I got and the space that I gave it is 200 by 150 dp. Well, that's not quite right for this picture. So there's a new attribute for image view. Don't worry about memorizing all these new attributes, but you can do what's called scale type with a capital T. And there's a few different ways you can stretch this, and one that's going to look really nice for us is center crop. It's going to expand it so it fills it, but then it's going to chop anything on the outside, and it won't stretch this, it won't skew the photo at all. So do center crop. And if you look to the right, you can see that's looking really nice, it's filling the space. And we'll do some attributes on the text view to make it look a bit nicer. So do you remember when we did gravity for the linear layout a few sections back? And that moved all of that element's children to the middle. And I mentioned at that point there's gravity and there's layout gravity, and I told you to avoid layout gravity. Well, if gravity makes all that element's children follow that center, or does make it look this, it won't skew the photo. It's going to look on these new attributes, but 200 just, and then go next, and import. Good, so we now have this ready to use. So back to our image view, I'm gonna just go back to the project pane for more space. Okay, now we can do source, and drawable, and it's the starter for this one. Okay. Now, if you look, you can see that the size of the image that I got and the space I gave it is 200 by 150 dp. Well, that's not quite right for this picture. So there's a new attribute for image view. Don't worry about memorizing all these new attributes, but you can do what's called scale type with a capital T. And there's a few different ways you can stretch this, and one that's going to look really nice for us is center crop. It's going to expand it so it fills it, but then it's going to chop anything on the outside, and it won't stretch this, it won't skew the photo at all. So do center crop. And if you look to the right, you can see that's looking really nice, it's filling the space. And we'll do some attributes on the text view to make it look a bit nicer. So do you remember when we did gravity for the linear layout a few sections back? And that moved all of that element's children to the middle. And I mentioned at that point there's gravity and there's layout gravity, and I told you to avoid layout gravity. Well, if gravity makes all that element's children follow that center, or whatever you give it, well, layout gravity, which we'll type now, will move that single element within its container. So this is really confusing, but we'll get lots of practice of this. So layout gravity center, and that will move the text view within its parent. So gravity causes an element's children to move, layout gravity causes that element to move within its layout. All right? You'll forget that. I forgot that many times, but with enough practice, it will eventually stick. So that's now centered. Let's give it a bit of margin. We'll give it margin to all sides, something like 8 dp. Bit of space. Let's increase the text size a little bit, not the 24 sp, maybe 18 sp. Okay, and we'll make this font family a bit different. We'll do bold this time, sans serif black. Okay, and if we look to the right, that looks a lot nicer. We'll do bold as 18 sp. Okay, and we'll make this font family a bit different. We'll do bold this time, sans serif black. Okay, and if we look to the right, that looks a lot nicer. Okay, now if you're feeling brave, you could do the exact same thing yourself for main courses. You could make a new card view, give it an ID, give it the same width, height, say below card view starters, If you're feeling brave, go ahead and pause now and try and copy. We're just going to do the same thing twice, but have a different picture. Otherwise, if that seems a bit intimidating to you, let's go ahead and do this together now. I'll do it a bit quicker now. So we're going to make a new card view, autocomplete, 200 dp wide, wrap content, normal tag, and we get the self-closing tag. Don't forget to give it an ID like I did. ID, card, view, mains. That's looking good. Then a linear layout as its child. Match parent and wrap content, normal tag, few line breaks. I've forgotten again the orientation. Vertical, very good. Cut and paste the text view inside. Cut these attributes because these are all to do with our relative layout, so cut them out and put them in the card view. Okay. Put a new image view at the top of the linear layout inside. Width match parent, height 150 dp, and source drawable main. I wonder if you're keeping up. And to make sure it fills, scale type, center crop. Lots of attributes to remember here, but don't worry if you forget them, you'll get so much practice. And self-closing tag. And then just a few attributes on our main courses to make it look a bit nicer. We had margin, HTP. We had text size, 18 SP, don't forget the SP, so it scales. We had layout gravity to move this element within its layout, different from gravity. And we changed the font family for sans serif black to make it look a bit thicker. You might not have the card effect if you've never used Card View before, so we'll run this now to see what this looks like on our phone. And that's looking pretty nice. I actually think that there's too much margin between starters and the title, so we're going to go back and change that. Very top, Card View starters, margin top 60. Let's change that to 32 dp. I like multiples of 4. Okay, let's run that again. That looks pretty nice. Before we leave this tutorial, we're going to get the reference to these card views in our Java code. So back to Android Studio, hop over to main.activity.java, and we're going to make a couple of fields, a couple of class variables, and these are going to be of type card view. And because we added the dependency, we have the autocomplete, so do that. And we'll have our starters card, so call the first variable starters card, and duplicate that, and call the second variable mains card. All we need to do now is assign that variable to the view on the screen, so we'll do starters card equals find view by ID, and it was r.id.cardViewStarters. Semicolon, duplicate the line, I'm going to double click copy that, mains card, I'm going to double click card view mains. So, quite a lot of things.
Passer toutes les paniques morales anti-trans, etc., que Macron il dit que c'est ubuesque les trans, et qu'on fait aucune éducation sexuelle. Après, je dis pas que l'éducation sexuelle les gens accepteraient, mais bon, à un moment vous allez en bouffer et puis c'est tout quoi.
Vous avez l'air bien embêté à parler de ce sujet, mais non, moi attends, tu crois que ça m'embête de savoir que il y a des Arabes et des musulmans anti-woke, homophobes et transphobes? On n'a aucun problème à le dire.
S'il
y a quelqu'un qui dit c'est libéral, ce serait aux gens de régler les choses entre eux. Non, je viens de dire l'inverse, je viens de dire que c'est Homer qui est pas capable de régler la situation. C'est pas libéral, moi je parle de la personne concernée.
On appelle à une solution communautaire, pas une solution panique morale quoi.
Surtout genre s'il est pas capable de faire en sorte que ça se passe bien et qu'il cède...
c'est qu'il sait pas gérer sa ville.
Et qu'il cède à des gens qui sont d'Iréac perdus, bon voilà quoi, genre...
Y a des insoumis dans le coin
Genre je sais pas, genre c'est... Mais surtout qu'apparemment, genre la vérité c'est qu'en gros c'est une consultation des habitants. C'est que t'as les gens que ça dérange pas qu'on regardait ça, et t'as les gens plus religieux qui sont choqués de ça, et il y a une discussion à mener entre les gens, et si c'est pas possible, et si la communauté religieuse sur place est trop conne, bah écoutez, là ça pose problème, écoutez, mais bon, moi je pense que c'est évident qu'il y a une instrumentalisation médiatique, et je pense que tu peux parler des deux, tu peux parler et du fait que quand il y a une communauté religieuse qui vient casser les couilles pour un film d'1h30 une fois dans l'année, ça fait chier. Mais qu'en même temps, quand tu vois l'utilisation qu'en est faite, bon, voilà quoi. Et puis c'est surtout que moi, à la limite, on en discute entre wokistes dégénérés, mais tous les droitards extrême droite qui viennent se servir de ça alors qu'ils ont fait 200 tweets les JO satanistes, le cheval de l'enfer sur la scène